I can't remember all of a sudden. And that we also are recording this on YouTube, and I will make the link available as soon as it's uploaded and edited a little bit and whatnot and ready for everyone's viewing. And we'll also open up an additional resource here in a couple weeks on Canvas for all the faculty, which will give additional resources for Zoom and all of the other Canvas and faculty stuff, so that we have additional stuff to help everyone prepare for this fall semester, so that we can make sure we're giving our students the best quality education we can, given the situation with COVID-19 and our situation with being completely online. With that in mind, it is my pleasure to introduce our faculty trainer tonight, and I think most everyone knows her, Linda Chappel, who is our arts instructor. And since she is our visual art instructor, I think she is well versed in being able to display things visually, and hence um, she can, I think, knows how to make things visual and recognizable for students. So, well, I'm going to stop talking. So I'm going to turn the time over to Linda and enjoy the training.
Okay. Hi, so I have not been using Zoom that long, to be honest. I'm still getting comfortable with it. I'm teaching the summer class. I'm teaching 2 classes, and I'm using Zoom every day now. So I do have a good comfort level with it. I have built it into my Canvas shell, and it is an important part of my class. After looking at some research that we've all been looking at, participation and making a student feel like they're part of a group and part of the class is really important. And I've found that Zoom is really helpful for that. So as we go through, I'm going to start with the basics, which are how to set it up so your Canvas goes exactly to your Zoom. How to set up your meetings. So I'm going to do that quite quickly because I think a lot of people are probably already familiar with that. And then we're going to look through how to set up your first meeting, how to prepare your students, prepare yourself, and then importantly, how to make your classes interactive and how to use Zoom for assessment. So that's our agenda. I'm not going to be using PowerPoint slides, but as I said in chat, I will share all my notes with somebody afterwards. If you just simply email me, I'll send you the notes. And on the notes, there's also links to the resources that I researched to prepare for this. So starting off right away with screen sharing here. So all your controls are down at the bottom if you have never used Zoom before. So I'm going to screen share my desktop. Okay, so that you can see where I'm at here. Okay, so I am showing you my class and the way I have it set up right now in Canvas. So my Zoom meetings are towards the top here. And if you click on the Zoom meetings, I have my students trained to come here to sign into the Zoom every day. So you can see here I've got my Zoom meetings all scheduled and they're ready to go. As you set your settings, on your Canvas, this is how you can change where that Zoom appears. You go to apps first and you make sure that you have your Zoom in order to add it if it's not already there. You can just click it in and add it as an app. At that point, you go to navigation, and right here is where you can move something around. You can move it up, move it down. You can pull things off and move them down here if you don't want them. So I put the Zoom towards the top, right underneath the modules, because those are the 2 things that my students are going to be using the most. Once you have your Zoom here, you can schedule your meetings right here. So I could add a meeting right here. The good part about this is that it's right there. It's available for you to do quickly. but it doesn't have the full range of setting options. So once you have your setting options in Zoom, it's easy to do it this way because those presets are going to stay. So that's what I found out this summer. I was like, oh, all those presets I did in Zoom stay. So now I'm going to show you my Zoom page. So, and what I mean by those presets are, if you go to your Zoom page and you go to settings and you go to meeting, okay, this is where you have more options. So my suggestion is to, check all your Zoom settings in Zoom first because you have a wider range of choices. So all these will translate over. So every time I have a meeting set, the join before host is already here. So students, if I'm not there yet, I actually get a notification on my phone saying somebody's waiting for you. So that's kind of nice. I have all the notifications on. You can mute people upon entry. So if we go down, I can just kind of show you what I have, but everybody of course might change it depending upon their class size. And so I can invite people with a one-click link in. I can start it always with me on. I'm always on video when I start. Students can come in with the telephone and the computer. Students can join before the host. I just have it set there for the personal ID. I don't put in anything special. Upcoming meeting, I want to remind myself. The chat's on, private chat, all those are on so the students can chat to each other. I have a sound come on when somebody joins. I found that that's really helpful because that way I can hear if a student joins while I'm talking. So I suggest that one. Feedback, co-hosts, polling is on, so I can poll every time. And another important one is that your participants can share if you're going to have your students screen share. Annotation is another one that I didn't know originally what that was, but that allows them to use annotations and write. And the whiteboard too, I suggest turning that one on because the whiteboard is something that you might want to use for your students. So as you go down here, you can see that some of these are quite, hide their profile pictures in a meeting. Oh, will be displayed. That's on. I should turn that off. Once you change something, right, it'll tell you that it's updated. Okay. So breakout rooms is another thing we're going to be using today. Make sure that you have that on here in your settings. The rest of these I'm still learning. I know that some of these are things that hopefully in the future I'm going to work with some of those. And then virtual background. The other tab up here that you should pay attention to is the recording tab. If you want to record your meetings every time, you want to record them to the cloud so that you don't clog up your computer. And you can pick to record the audio file or the chat. So I have the chat recorded as well. And I'm still kind of learning how this works, but again, you can basically pick how you want them recorded, and this is going to stick with your things. And then the telephone too, because we do have a lot of students who have to telephone. Just make sure that you can get telephone calls, but not third party. So that is how I have that set. So once those are set, your recordings are going to show up in here. So here's all my recordings from my design class because I'm doing it every day. They're there. And then my scheduled meetings show here. But again, I have been scheduling now almost completely through Canvas because, and you can see here the limitations of the choices. That's why it's really good to go into the Zoom first and look at all the choices that you have. So there are some choices here, but it's just way more extensive there. And you need the breakout room and the whiteboard annotation. You need those enabled. And you don't get the choice to do that here. So this is just nice for adding meetings quickly. And I add meetings sometimes for individual students. I can just do it right here. So all these meetings are going to show for the students. So when they pull this up, they've got an easy in. And they've been really good about getting in the habit of looking at that. Okay. The recordings are here too for the students, although I often send a copy of that if the student is not in attendance that day. I'll send them a link along with a note that I missed them. So, all right. So any questions on that from anybody? Okay.
Does the student need to have Zoom installed on his computer?
I'm actually going to get to that, like on my
Okay.
next topic, and it is yes. My answer is yes. So, so setting it up, having those accounts set, and I think once you take care of that, you know, it's fairly easy. So the next topic is setting up your first Zoom meeting with your students. So I have a few things that I've learned. One of them is students are not going to be immediately comfortable. I'm still getting comfortable with this. I'm sure many of you feel the same way. It is a little bit different to be on video than it is in front of people, even though I'm totally comfortable in front of my classroom. And I think many students are probably feeling the same way. So first thing is to get them on Zoom. I suggest having your students tell them to download the app both to their computer and their phone if they have a phone. And that's because phones are a little more reliable, and sometimes their computers are, the internet connection might get unstable, and that way they're ready with their phones. So my suggestion is to have them download the app to both. Let them know that you're going to be recording the meetings, and that the sharing of the meetings is available on the Canvas, and that you're also recording the chat. The first class meeting, I did not expect my students to be using the video, just like I requested everybody today to turn on their video. And it is a comfort thing. People are getting more comfortable with it. Personally, I find using the video a really important engagement tool. So I have been telling my students slowly but surely, we are getting used to watching each other on video. I do not have this large of a class, and class size is something that I'm going to touch on again a little bit later. Another important thing to lay out for your student is the etiquette. What your Zoom etiquette is might vary. Again, my Zoom etiquette is I do request that they have the video on. I request that they have the mute on all the time unless they're going to speak. And that's just a habit that I think most people are getting used to. If you have a larger class size, you might want to lay out right away how to ask questions, whether it's a hand raised in participation or in a chat. The other thing is you might also let students know if they're having technical problems, what to do. Should they text you during the meeting? Should they wait till after the meeting? And how to contact you if they're having problems. You might also set an etiquette for if students leave early to chat, to let you know that they're leaving early, just like they would if they left the classroom early, or you know, other issues that might come up. Another suggestion that goes along with the etiquette is asking students to add a profile picture. I can see some people have profile pictures here, some people don't. Profile pictures are nice to have up. I think as an instructor, it is hard to lecture to a bunch of black boxes and names. And those of you who've held meetings probably know it's the same thing. And it can be a fun thing for a student to do. One of the things also for a suggestion is that they can change their name. So if they are using a formal name in there and they don't want that name, they could actually change their name. They can also add a preferred pronoun is something else that they can add. So, you know, if the student's name is Thomas and he'd rather be called Tom, you can show them in their profile settings how to change that. And it can be fun just to have a picture that says something about you. That could be a first fun assignment. So the idea is to kind of set this up prior to your first class meeting. I suggest, you know, the first time to send a link so that they can hit on it right from their email, as well as put it in your Canvas, because all students probably will not be aware of the Canvas. You may want to include the etiquette in that email, or put the etiquette on your announcement for your first page. But I think that having the students start to get used to it slowly and kind of scaffolding, you know, all the Zoom activities in as you go is a good idea. To get students to turn on their camera and to get anybody to turn on the camera, there can be some really fun ice-breaking activities that you could do. People have done a lot of things with holding up objects, you know, where you pick something that means something to you and you hold it up. Hold up a pet. Hold up anything, because it's easier for them to hold something up than to be on camera themselves, right? So I have them hold up artwork because, you know, that way the attention is on something else, right? So my suggestion is maybe that first day that you have everybody use their cameras is just to use the camera to do a fun activity. Some students are totally fine with being on video, but I know myself and other people are not that comfortable being on video. So that's just a suggestion for a first icebreaker. Again, initially, my suggestion is to show the students the tools and to walk through the tools, but don't start using all the tools right away. Because some students are probably going to be really familiar with how to use the chat box, how to use the participation, but not everybody will be. So I had different activities each day in the beginning so that each day we would use a new tool just to introduce the tool use. So that's my suggestion with students. Okay. Any comments or additions or questions to introducing the students to Zoom?
This is Camilla.
Hi.
I've said before that I think that some students have the screen is different. So how do you if a student had a phone or they're using a phone and they have a different screen and you say look at the bottom for this thing and it's not there, do you ask them if what phone they're using, or do you suggest them to go to IT and look for their own device, their screen, what it looks like and how to operate?
Yeah, so that is, Camillus, that is a really important aspect of this, and that's why I said, you know, use both a phone and a monitor if they can. I know the phone has limited, there's limited things you can do on the phone. Even a good phone, I know that the whiteboard, for example, I don't think you can do that on the phone. So I request that my students use a laptop or a monitor or the iPad if they have it. And if they don't, because the phone, sometimes all you can do is listen, then I just have them, you know, participate as much as they can with their voice. But that is something to consider. And I think initially, if you can talk to that student maybe separately outside of class time so that you can maybe assist them in some way. But that, you know, there's so many things you can do on Zoom. And I've read a lot, you know, over the past like week or so and looked into a lot of different cool things, but the limitations of technology you know, going to be something that I think everybody's going to have to deal with in their class setting, depending upon their specific students. So I think that's a really good, yeah, I think that's a really good point, because yeah, and it's also the speed of the video can be really you know, I have 2 students that blink in and out a lot. So when they're talking on video, it's pretty shaky. It's, you know, it's not perfect, but I guess it's what we have right now. So trying to.
On your syllabus, or either before the class, do you send out something to the students saying this is what I require, and what is that? I mean, what do you say? Is it like a laptop or a pad or this strength or this version of this or whatever?
What I said is that a laptop or a pad is the best, right? And I said, if you don't have that, you know, use your phone. So that's the way I put it. I sent out an email, you know, and I just suggested that, you know, if possible, that they use a computer monitor, that works the best. But if that wasn't available to them, that they could call in.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other comments or questions on this section?
This is Teresa here. I want to share something I just learned today, because we've had storms and very bad internet, and some of you might already know this, but I'm pretty excited. So when I log on to Zoom, it asks for audio. So instead of doing computer audio, you can do the phone audio, and apparently, and it shows you your ID. So if you call in with your phone and you enter both your meeting ID and then your individual ID, then it shows up with your picture like I am now, and then my audio is on my phone, so that the audio is much clearer. And if I get knocked off the internet, then I'm still connected, and it still says Teresa Newberry. So what I did in the past is and other people that I've been in Zoom meetings with have done both, like log in on video and call in separately. But maybe people know this, but I just wanted to share it because that's really working well for me today. And it could help with some of the bandwidth issues.
Yeah, thank you, Teresa. That's a good point. And I didn't say that, but I did it a low-tech way where I just like muted my computer. So I didn't know that you could dial in different. So again, that's another option. And I always, yeah, I appreciate that, because I think that's something that everybody should be able to tell their students.
Linda, this is Marcia. I just wanted to add something. I think, especially because of how we're delivering our courses now, it would make sense that we got some type of uniform message from IT that we could say to our students and put on our syllabi. Because I've seen all kinds of different types of wording about what do you need, what is required for your computer, for your, you know, I just think that would make a lot of sense. And this is more of an administrative thing, but if we had a statement from IT identifying the type of computer and programming and stuff that's required.
Hi, Marcia. IT is working on that.
Okay, because that'll help them too, even with this, with talking about Zoom, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're working on that.
Okay. All right, so the next topic on my little agenda here is preparing yourself. So in class preparation and preparing for a Zoom meeting, you do have to be pretty well organized and prepared. The one thing that I have noticed as I'm preparing is that transitions are clunky, right? It's clunky to go between screen sharing and not screen sharing. It's clunky to like all of a sudden ask everybody to start to chat. There's these, you know, it's just, it doesn't flow like it does in the classroom. So think about that as you organize. Think about every time you screen share, there's going to be that clunky. every time you break into groups, it's a little clunky. So it's nice to do those things, you know, once, but to go back and forth a lot, it slows everything down. So that's something I've noticed. And so my suggestion is to kind of think about those transitions, and they do take time. To open and close breakout rooms, it takes a minute or two. So you're going to lose some of your time, and it backs the flow a little bit. The other thing, you do have to think about your class size. Like I said, this is the most people I've had on a Zoom meeting. I generally have 6 students. So we can all be there. It's easier to sort of have a more natural discussion. A larger class size, when you select which tools you're going to use for reviews or things like that, you should be aware of that. So think about your activities and how that's going to work with your class size. An hour is a good plan. Beyond an hour sometimes gets a little long on Zoom. So I have been generally having about an hour Zoom meetings, and I feel like we can cover quite a bit. And of course, the rest is on available to them on the Canvas shell. I am usually early in the meeting. I turn on the participation sidebar right away so that I can see students as they enter. When I sit down, you know, it's just like being in the classroom where you want to have certain things set, you know, your lighting, your water, have your extension cord for your computer in case you're running out of power. Setting your computer up so that you're more eye level with it is something that's suggested, and I think it's helpful. Maintaining eye contact, I think, is the hardest thing for me to get used to. I'm always looking off the side to my notes. Sometimes it's hard to remember not to look at the faces and to look at the little green light. But I think I'm learning, and I'm trying to get a little bit better with that. If you need headphones because you have other people in your household, be sure to use headphones. And I've been preparing and sort of presenting myself as I would in the classroom. And I think that that's important. I think that making that sort of personal connection with the students and showing some of your personality, it helps them. It helps them engage, and it helps them feel like they're part of a class. I think that's a really big challenge that we're all facing at this point. I usually have a notepad on the side because I've found that, you know, students will, I'll say that, oh, I'll send you an email or something like that, and I don't want to type on my computer. So I've actually had paper on the side. I don't know how everybody else is maybe better functioning than I am with the computer, but I have found having a notepad next to me is really nice, so that if I'm screen sharing and I want to write something down, I can just write it down on a piece of paper. Another thing is, again, as people enter the classroom, I have been saying hi, and I wait for them to turn on their mic. And but when you have a larger class, that might not be your connection. Maybe just start with a chat. So I also have been watching my Zoom videos after the fact to work on my improvement. And it's really painful for me personally to watch myself again. One of the things that I found out that I've been telling my students, if I send them a link and they're going to watch the Zoom, is I actually have them turn it up to 1.5 speed, because it seems like, I don't know if I teach slower on Zoom or it's just all those clunky transitions I was talking about. But I have been watching myself after the fact to see how the lighting is and how things work and how my personality is coming across. Sometimes I feel like I don't know, it's awkward for me personally, but that is helping, and I am getting used to it. So you might want to do that as well, just to see how the class looks to your students. So, and those are kind of the main things. After every Zoom meeting, I have been summarizing what we did on the Zoom and sending that as an announcement. So post Zoom meeting, I've been summarizing it, and then I write and say, hey, you know, we had a great meeting today. It was nice to have everybody there. And here's the key points. Here's what we did. And then if the student was not in that Zoom meeting, underneath that, I'm putting a link to the Zoom meeting so that they can watch it. So I think that follow through note after the fact is a good way for them to kind of summarize. Okay, so that's how to prepare yourself. I still feel like I'm always working on that. As I said, I'm not totally comfortable. So any comments or suggestions on getting yourself ready? Okay, all right. There's a lot on the internet too on how to look a certain way, or backgrounds is something that people do too. All right, so.
What about when you ask a question, just like you're doing right now, and nobody responds, and it's just quiet? How long do you have to wait before people? Just an average of what do you do? How do you 9 seconds, 15 seconds before you move on, or before you start to wonder if everybody's
there? You know I'm laughing, Camillus, is because I like read about this week, and that was something that more than one article like pointed out, is that there's a lot of like, you have to embrace the like pause, that it is a longer pause. And what I've done sometimes when I have a really long pause is I actually go down and I like give everybody a thumbs up, and I say, hey, you guys, will you give me a thumbs up? Are you there? Because I feel like I don't know if anybody's watching, right? So yeah. I've done that a couple times. Yeah. So I've also asked people to add, to turn on their videos and just say, hi, I got it, or give me a real thumbs up, like real life thumbs up. So yeah, like I said, I think a lot of students are still getting comfortable with how to interact on Zoom, and just, I'm glad you asked that, because that is something that I've been really pushing my students to try to keep them engaged.
Would you call on people and say so-and-so?
I do, and sometimes that's really awkward because, it takes them a while to turn on their mic sometimes, but for the most part, they'll answer. So I do that. But like I said, that does create one of those transitions that's a little slow, I think, for the other students, because they're waiting for that student to turn on their mic and start to talk. And it just, like I said, the flow is not, it's not fast. So I think it depends on your class size.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have an idea, Linda. It's Deanna. So one of the things that, I don't know, probably from working with young children, transitions are just like one of those things you have to do the first month of school. But maybe like in those quiet spaces when it's like you're asking students, is everybody okay? What do you think? What I've seen in conferences is that the presenter will say, can you type something that you took away from this lecture or something? That way it gives like the students something to do where they don't necessarily have to go on camera, but you find out as the instructor like what you need, but then it also engages the students too.
Good. Yeah. And that's a really, thanks, Deanna, and that's a really nice that's a really nice segue into the next topic, which is interaction and assessments. So I'm going to go through all the different sort of buttons that we have here, and if everybody wants to sort of navigate with me, rather than having me screen share. Your participation, so if you click your participation and you open that up, and you can have all your students do this, everybody open up your participation and everybody check the yes box to see that they're there, right? So check your yes box. So I can see some yeses are showing up here, so everybody just click that and click your yes box. So the participation button is really good for larger groups. Okay, so larger class size. You can also, like I said, set a class etiquette that if somebody wants to talk, they're going to raise their hand in the participation. The participation, you can also say no, you can say go slower, go faster. So as you walk this through your students, and if you want this to be the primary way that they engage, because you have 24 people in your class every day, this might be a good tool. And again, Camillus, this would be a good place to say, hey, does everybody get the point I'm trying to make? Please hit your yes button, so that people are engaged and you can kind of see how many yeses you're getting and how many people are actually engaging. Another thing is you can start by having a yes and no with, can everybody hear me, right? Yes, right? Or can everybody see me? The participation button is good for that. It's also, like I said, a good assessment for checking for understanding. Does everybody know the definition of, you know, visual spectrum? Yes or no, right? And you can sit there and wait for people to start to hit yes or no. So this little participation box is a really nice way to engage the students and keep them going on. Does anybody want coffee? If you hit the more button, you guys, you can get coffee. All right, so, yes?
I see it's a chat box. Where is the participation box?
Participation box is down at the bottom on your scroll bar. You'll see it says participants,
yeah,
and it's 28. Hit that, and then it should open up.
I see. Okay, I got it.
You got it? Okay, so do you see where it says yes, no, go slower?
Yes.
Under more, there's coffee cup. So that's what's all there. So that's there. Okay, and then your chat box can be open up below that. If you hit your chat box, you can have both those boxes open.
Okay.
And chat's the next thing. So chat, you guys, can be really good for some students are very comfortable with chat. I can see we've been chatting a lot. The downside of chat for me as an instructor is that I have a really hard time reading the chat and talking right at the same time. But I think, and I've been in webinars too, where, you know, I'm chatting, and I think it's easy to chat and listen to the lecture at the same time. So the chat box, again, you could have students chat to each other in the chat box. I've used it to review things where I say chat with each other about, you know, value. And because I only have six students, they'll start to chat to each other. So again, class size I think is key. It can be a really good way to have an icebreaker. Another suggestion is to start with the chat. As people are logging into your class, you might every day have a chat question. That might be a good way for students to use that time to start discussing, or have students, another idea is to have students ask a muddiest point question, like what don't you understand? Send me a chat right now. So assessment, you guys, chat can be very good for assessment. Again, chat is sometimes better because if the students have a bad video feed, and they have a hard time turning on their video and talking, it's a lower, you know, it's a lower tech basically, or a lower internet connection. So sometimes it's easier for them to chat than to use their microphone. You can also have a chat be a sort of a checkout at the end. If you want to do like a quick exit, like, hey, everybody, you know, say something, as Deanna said before, like that you learned today. Or what do you think was the key points from the lecture? List 3 key points. So it's kind of like an exit poll is something else that some people do. And that might be a good way to make sure that your students are staying engaged till the end of your lecture time period. So that's kind of a nice way that you can use that. So using, I think Deanna gave me that idea to sort of have your last word, like, hey, before you go today, just give me 3 words that you learned, or did you know what did you get out of this lecture today? So it's a nice way to kind of get some feedback and to get some assessment. Another one of our tools down here that we have are the responses that I already hit the thumbs up. That's a very quick one. It's fairly limited, but it is a nice way when you have a big class, just to have people like give a thumbs up or like, yay, good job. So as you're lecturing, I think it's a way that you might engage with your students a little bit. So that's simple. Maybe at some point they'll add a few more reactions. That would be nice for Zoom to do that. Breakout rooms are something that I don't have down here right now. Breakout rooms and polls, you have to set that in your settings. We don't have that much time left in this little thing for us to actually do a breakout room. But what I want to say about breakout rooms is my students have really liked them. But again, because there's a transition time, I would only suggest doing a breakout room once per lecture time, or maybe twice. I think it really maybe depends. But the breakout rooms, when you set up your breakout rooms, you can just say that if I have 24 people in this class, I would say I want 6 rooms, and the system automatically sets them for you. So your breakout rooms are set into 4, and the students have to like click, something comes up on their screen, they click, they're in a breakout room. While they're in the breakout room, you'll get a box where you can look at your breakout rooms and you can type, and what you type in there shows up on their screens. So you can type out what you want them to discuss. So the breakout rooms, I used them the very first day of class, and I had students meet one-on-one with another student and do an icebreaker. So that was kind of a good way for them to get used to each other. I think that as students are getting used to talking on video, most of them are used to talking to friends or family, and maybe just talking to one other person might be more of a comfort level. So the breakout rooms, you can also start a breakout room at the beginning of class, and as your participations come into your classroom late, which inevitably some students always do, you can put them into a breakout room that's already going. So that's kind of nice too, because they're already interacting that way. So I've used them at the beginning of class and found that as students join in, they just jump into the breakout room. Once they're in the breakout rooms and you're ready to diminish the breakout rooms or come back to the full class, you push a button and the breakout rooms have 60 seconds to basically wrap up, okay? If you're doing some type of assessment, or if you're working on a project, you might want to point out one student to report back, and they could report back in chat. You can have report backs like through Google or through other apps, but I haven't done that yet because I'm just keeping this to a minimum. So you can do that as well. The whiteboard and the annotation are also part of the breakout, or you can use them as a full class. And those I have found really nice for review. So again, those are going to be down here on your toolbar only if in settings you hit that. Those allow everybody to, on screen share, it allows everybody to, maybe it's on here, it is on here. On screen share, you can hit it and you'll see a whiteboard. If you bring that up, everybody can chat back and forth on it. So it's a writing tool, and you can also use that. I've used that for review, and so you can type a question, and Camille, this kind of goes to what you said too about students not responding. They can just type, and I've had better luck with that, and that way you don't have to wait for students to turn on their mics and talk on that. So that is under screen share. So the whiteboard, you have to turn that on and have that this is again though something that you can't do it on a phone. So you have to be aware if your students are have that tech available to them. So the whiteboard can be a really nice tool and a good way to interact. So I, as the instructor, just type my questions and then it shows. There we go. That's the whiteboard. All right. So, all right. Camillus, you found yours. Yay. So, the other thing that a lot of people are using for assessment are polls. So a poll creation, again, before you set up your meeting, if you go to settings and you set that you want to have a poll in your meeting, polls are going to appear down on your lower bar. You can use polls as an icebreaker. You can preset your polls. So you go into your meeting, you can click on it actually just from the Zoom setting in your Canvas, and you open to edit your meeting, and you can write your poll questions. Your poll is going to show in your toolbar below. You're going to click it and it'll let you open that poll. A poll can be a really good way to start a discussion at the beginning of class. The poll box just pops up on the student's screen and they can just click. The poll questions have to be like multiple choice or one or the other. So they have to be pretty simple questions. They can't be like complex questions. That's the one thing that I've noticed, that I wish I could ask more complex questions. But it can be a good way to use an icebreaker. You might want to poll your students like, what do you already know about color theory? And then, I know nothing about color theory. I made a color wheel in my last class. So you can give them choices and then they can click on them. So that might be a nice way to check for prior knowledge of a topic, and it's something for students to do as soon as they open up the Zoom and they're waiting for other students to come in. You can also use a poll at your end of your class to wrap up and assess. So it's a very good assessment tool because you can ask students to get their understanding. Also, as an exit poll, it's a nice way to make sure students are still participating. So setting up an exit poll, again, maybe even doing that every meeting so that the students have a little bit of a routine and they know that they're going to do their exit poll. I've been in several meetings where they always have an exit poll at the end, and it's a nice way to sort of wrap things up and ask for your participants' understanding, or ask for a quality check basically. So you could get a poll before and a poll after. So a poll, again, you just have to create it prior to your meeting. So prior to your meeting, you go into your setting, set up a poll, and then it'll be there for you. Screen share, you guys, is the thing that people are probably really familiar with. It is very helpful to do screen share. I use it to show PowerPoints, and I thought about doing it for this meeting, but then I thought, you know what, I'm just going to talk on video, and I'm going to send the notes afterwards. Because there is that thing where we all just use PowerPoints. They're really easy. But screen share, you can screen share, and like I said, have a whiteboard as well. And that's a way, if you have the annotation, you can actually write on your screen sharing. My suggestion with screen sharing is to have everything ready on your desktop that you're going to use. So that makes it nice to do screen sharing, is have the things set. I started with screen sharing and I already had my desktop with my little tabs open. So I usually just hit desktop and go to my tabs that I have set. So screen sharing, again, there is that transition where you have to kind of wait for it to click in and for students to do it. Another good thing about screen sharing, though, is that it does keep students from being on Facebook during your lecture. So it's nice for that reason, I think. So screen sharing, and then you can also set that in settings for others to be able to screen share. So if you want your students to screen share And again, as you go into your semester, towards the end, you might have student presentations. Hopefully by then they're comfortable on video, they're comfortable with screen sharing, and they'll be able to screen share. It's something that I would scaffold in, you know, to have students maybe just start getting used to screen sharing and getting used to Zoom before you have them present themselves and do a bigger project. So getting students sort of just used to being on video again and used to talking in front of a class. Just like in the real classroom, you know, some students are really uncomfortable standing up and presenting. The same thing with screen sharing. Some students are probably going to be very uncomfortable initially. So maybe getting them to screen share something simple like a photograph or anything that they might want to screen share one day before you have them do a whole presentation. So you might want to consider screen sharing even like, hey, this is my music video that I've been watching this week, and not play the whole video, but just so that they have something to share with their fellow students. So you might want to do a couple of just quick exercises before you have them screen share and go through an entire presentation on Zoom. So I'm just about at time, which is perfect. Assessments and being able to integrate them through polls, through breakout rooms. There's a lot of information that I have on what I'm going to send everybody afterwards to the links. But I think that using Zoom in particular, it's a nice way to get some assessment integrated into your curriculum and fairly easy. The idea that students are gaining a little bit of personal time and feeling like they have a class, a cohort, having them meet each other on Zoom, I think is really good, because then they'll probably be much more familiar with each other and maybe reach out to each other and do some study, you know, on another type of social media. So I think getting students to meet each other and have some social interaction with each other is always good for the classroom. So any questions on the toolbar?
No.
Okay, good. All right. Okay. So again, my suggestion, you guys, is to, you know, maybe one day just do a chat, right? If you have all your students, you know, break out, and then having something set in so that you're going to repeat that. Like every day you open, you know that, you know, Professor Chappel is going to start with a poll. That might be a really good way to set up your class. My suggestion is that we're getting all the students used to the Zoom tools and you know, building structure that, you know, if as the semester goes on, people are becoming more comfortable, you can see how you can continue to integrate this. For me, having the video on has been really important because I have students show their artwork. Even if it's not the best image, I'll have them hold it up and talk about it so that we have a critique, because that critique is a really important part of studio practice. I am doing demos live on Zoom as well. I just take my computer out to my studio, and I think the students really like it because they get to see where my art studio is. And I've been painting, you know, and doing things in front of them. So that is how I've been integrating it into my classroom. The last topic I wanted to hit on really fast, we've only got a few minutes, is troubleshooting and add-ons. So I have been staying late with students sometimes to help them troubleshoot. I am also thinking of having one-on-one Zoom time with students after class so that, you know, Bob and Janie stay after on Tuesday, and, you know, we can talk a little bit one-on-one. So being, you know, it's just like being in your classroom after class is over and you get a little one-on-one time with students. they're already there on the Zoom call, and so it's kind of nice. So being able to stay late with students afterwards, I know some professors are holding office hours on Zoom. I'm setting up separate Zoom time sometimes with students if they miss class and they want some one-on-one time. So it's been really helpful for that. Helping them with the IT, again, I think Curtis already mentioned, we're going to send out some information. There is IT help on the website as well, but working with that. There are a lot of add-ons. I have not used any of them. In some of the information I'm going to send you, you can see that some people use a tool called Cahoots for their polls because it allows for more polling and different type of polling. There's also a product called Murals that's another add-on. I have not done any of these add-ons because I'm still, you know, like I said, getting used to Zoom and seeing how it works. Some of the problems that we may have with add-ons though are again, the compatibility and whether students have room on their phones to have another app. It's a whole nother thing. There are games even that you can add on. So later on in the semester, I would suggest that, you know, maybe if your class is tech savvy, if everybody seems to have good tech and you want to experiment a little bit, you could look into some of those. And that's all I have. And it's time. So I feel pretty good about that. Any questions or extra ideas?
I might have one, Linda.
Yes.
I'm running into this problem in one of my classes right now because I have a student who is hearing impaired and does not know sign language. So I am now trying to figure out a way to use. I believe it's going to be a YouTube live stream with closed captioning. I'm going to test this out tomorrow. But anyway, I'm looking for ways to do closed captioning beyond just getting somebody to sit down and type it verbatim. So just keep that in your minds. You will have the same issue I will eventually. And then keep your eyes out for ways to close caption. Right now I'm going to use a Google Doc with the speak situation. I'm also going to run a separate Zoom session with the individual so that she can text me a lot more, and we can go through some of the material that way as well. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because I want you guys to be aware that we do need to get closed captioning on our stuff.
Tim, isn't that one of the advanced settings in Zoom?
It is, but it's a third party. It's just a way, just like our
right.
LTIs, right, in our Canvas. Yeah, it's just a way to integrate with it.
Okay, all right.
And here I am doing hand gestures.
And so, yes, Tim does bring up a very important point, and this is something that we'll need to have further discussion about, is we do have to remember that in our online classes, we cannot just present information verbally. We need to make sure that information is both verbal and in print or just in print. And so that's something to keep in mind. If you're going to do a verbal presentation, you need to make sure that something is in writing as well, whether it be a full PowerPoint with notes, or as Tim is mentioning, you have a full closed captioning or a manuscript of your lecture. So those are all things about online learning that we need to make sure that we're aware of, just to keep in mind as you're designing your classes for this fall semester. So, but we'll have more direction on that as we move forward. So. But Tim does bring up a good point, and it's a learning experience as we're moving online. So I do want to real quickly just bring up some resources for those who are working with students, just so everybody knows the resources that are available. This is the Facebook Live that we are now, that I would recommend streaming. And as it records, it will start closed captioning. So that is one option that you can do. and then eventually that'll be closed captioned. The other feature that I'd like to draw everyone's attention to that is going up right now, and more stuff will be added, is on our main page for Tonoph Community College. Up at the right hand corner, there's a student online resources, and on here it has for our students, and if you haven't looked at it yet, I would encourage you to do here. There is videos on how to join a Zoom meeting. From our meetings from faculty, there will be more videos about how to join if you have a cell phone versus different devices. But these are basic videos for your students. So when you're setting up your classes, you'll want to refer your students to all of these different guides that are available to students already on the TOCC website. I just wanted to share that with you so that everyone knows that this is available to our students as it is, and there's more videos that are being added as faculty have mentioned student needs. So they are coming up with more videos, but I wanted to make sure everyone is aware of all of these different resources already for students. And with that in mind, Linda did mention that there is a polling option. So I did create a poll, and I know it's going to be a little bit biased, but I think that's all right. So I thought we would try a poll. So I'm going to launch a poll for everyone to say that just says, how useful was this training? And I'm going to launch this poll right now for everyone to take, and we'll see its live reaction right now. So if you're seeing it, let's just do this thing and look at it.
Curtis, could you show again what you were using for closed captioning? You were using, looked like you were on YouTube. How are you doing that?
So in your in your bar below, okay. So if you have a YouTube account and you by the reactions button you select more, you can select live stream, and one of the options is live YouTube. And when you stream live on YouTube, it won't close caption right away, but once it is processed by YouTube, it will add a closed caption to it. So it won't do it immediately, but as you develop your library of lectures, at least you will have previous lectures that do have closed captions to them. So it's not an immediate thing, but it's something that you can use in the future as you have students who can watch your lectures in the future, but just not live. We're looking at some solutions for the closed captionings, and hopefully we'll have some soon. So we have a 24 votes, and a lot of us found this very useful, totally awesome, and somewhat useful and useful. So it wasn't, none said totally useless, not useful at all, I mean, so that's very good. I'm glad I didn't put useless, that would have been mean. So that's kind of how a poll works, and you can see how this can be used as kind of one of those check-ins for assessment, like check-ins for learning and stuff like that. And just so you know, if you are just kind of logged into your Zoom account, you can create these polls while you're working with your class. If you're kind of in the middle of students are in the middle of a project and stuff, and you're like, I want to poll them, log into your Zoom account, and you can kind of create a poll as they're working on something. And so that might be a way to do that. So I'm going to end this poll, and I'm going to share the results. And that's the results, and we can see the majority found this very useful, so that's good. And so that's kind of how you can use the polling to kind of get a gauge of where your students are at. So kind of a cool option. Okay. All right. Let's get out of that. So one thing that I am going to ask after tonight, so after this presentation is over, I'm going to go through the comment box, make sure that we hit all of the questions, and if we missed any, we'll make sure we'll send an email out to get everyone's questions answered. If after tonight there are still questions about Zoom and how to use it and how to fully function it, please send me an email, and we'll try and get either a video training or some information out to you. We want to make sure that you're fully prepared for this Zoom, for this fall semester if you are going to use Zoom. And so, so I do want to answer this for Teresa. Do adjunct, especially new ones, know how to access their Zoom accounts? And Teresa, I just remembered this. I need to check and make sure that all the fall faculty are set up for their full Zoom accounts and that they're in the full functional Zoom ones. I just realized that I haven't done that yet, and so I'll make sure that all the faculty are there and that they have it. So so I'll check into that and make sure that that's happening. I just realized that. So so let us know if you need anything else. And with that being said, I want to thank Linda for this training. I learned some things, and thank her very much for all that she did in preparing for this. And I hope everyone learned something, and we look forward to hopefully seeing everyone tomorrow for Tim's training on course mapping and how to really lay out your course so it's effective for your students and makes it easier for you to look at how you can lay out your course. With that being said, everybody have a good night. Sleep well, enjoy this rain. And we will see you all tomorrow, I hope.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, Linda. Good job, man.